What happens when two widows meet for the first time after texting for over a year through grief? Makela Allen and I will have a raw and powerful conversation about suicide loss, raising children, and what healing looks like. I welcome Makela Allen. She is a luxury wedding and event planner, a powerhouse, raising 3 children. A toddler, a 5-year-old, and a 17-year-old niece that she's taken under her wing. Now, this is an emotional episode because every time I hear of a parent losing their significant other to suicide, I feel it to the core of my heart, and I get full goosebumps. That happened to me when I remember hearing about Twitch, Stephen Boss, and Allison Holken. When he died by suicide, it was only 8 months after I had lost Scott in March 2022. And it was still so raw of the pain that my children felt. I wanted to just give them all a big hug. And that's exactly how it feels now every time I hear that. Every time someone reached out saying, I know I have a friend who has lost their husband, their wife to suicide. Now, this is how Makela and I met. It was actually on social media. One of our friends had reached out to me, have heard my story and my heart and my passion. She reached out saying that her friend lost her husband and she has 2 young ones to raise now on her own. She felt that we needed to connect, and somehow I know it's that invisible thread as suicide survivors that brings us together. There's a knowing of the pain that we go under, and that what our children go under as well. So today, it's the first time that I meet Makela in person. We've tried many times to connect, but with our busy schedules and mothering and businesswoman, it just never aligned. But I think there's a reason. We just actually needed to create this episode today for all the other suicide survivors or any other widows. I was a widow and checking the widow box at 42 years old. Makela Allen was only 30 years old. Now you feel very alone because the only other widows that I knew, they were in their 70s, 80s, 90s. I had no one my age as a widow. It felt very lonely. And so today I welcome you. Here, Makela, so many emotions, and I know it's that invisible thread that we just see each other. Yeah. I see you, just through social media, and I'm just in awe as well as what you're doing for your children, being there through their grief, your own, but also you're a businesswoman.
Yeah.
I mean, you are gifted.
Oh, thank you.
You are gifted. You. I have seen your events worldwide that you do, and I can't wait to have an excuse to have an event and hire you.
Thanks, girl.
But you are incredible. So welcome.
Thank you.
And I know there's so many people that we will touch today with our story.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you, it is an honor to be here with you, and I feel, just lucky to be able to share my story with you in a safe place, but also just with somebody who actually understands it, and where, I'm really excited for how we can hopefully help and touch so many people with just us talking.
Yes, absolutely. I do want you to start. I actually don't know anything about your husband, your story, other than you lost your husband.
Yeah.
Can you go back maybe even years prior, or
Yeah.
your story, how you guys met, and who he was, you know?
Yeah. So we, at the time, were living in Northern California, Sonoma. Technically, I say I met him at school, but the truth is we met at a bar. I was already working full time. And for me, my career was everything. And so throughout high school, and really it wasn't until my senior year meeting him, I told myself I was not going to date. He was my first boyfriend. And so that night at the bars, I met him. Or even I'll backtrack. I technically saw him in class that night. And it was the one night my best friend and I, Katie, she said, can we act like seniors for 1 year? Or for one night, can we go out to the bars tonight? It's the first week of school. I said, sure. So I see him in class and I call her and I was like, I just saw the most handsome man. And she's like, really? What's his name? I said, I don't know. But I'm telling you right here now, he's going to be my future baby daddy. And she was like, you're crazy. But that night at the bars, he came up to me, asked to buy me a drink, called my mom the next day and said the same thing. I'm going to marry this man one day. And from that moment on, we were together. Truth be told, it wasn't until recent months that I really shared like what happened in those years of us early on together. We were probably together about 1.5 years before he had proposed. We got married, but really from night one of us together, he was very verbally, mentally, and physically abusive for many years. But you would have never have known it. I wanted to be loved. And so for me, it's hard because now I look back at our story and there's so much and so many times I should have walked away, knowing my own self-worth and whatnot. But I didn't, and I didn't have the courage to, and I did not share with anybody at that time truly what was happening. Got married, so that was 2015 when we met. At that point, we both graduated, started working, like I said, and then it was really 2017, we got married. My son was not born until 2020. And even at that time, his drinking was pretty heavy. It was actually the reason why we moved to Arizona. My mom and her side of the family all lived out here. It was going to be my very first overnight trip for work. I got invited to Texas, and COVID during that time, events, you weren't doing events, but it was just kind of like a little thing we got to go and do. I got to go tour a venue all outside. This is out in Napa, and when I came back, he was so drunk by halfway through the day, he forgot to feed our son, who at the time was only a couple months old. And so when I got invited to go to Texas for this one overnight, I knew I couldn't leave him with him. And so at that time, I had called up my mom and also his mom, who lived about 2 hours away from us at the time. And I said, what do I do? I want to go. And normally I would have canceled my plans to cater to him, to allow things to keep happening. And my mom said, do you want your career? And it's crazy because now I look back at these moments and where I see where my life has transformed into, and I'm so thankful certain steps brought us to where we are, despite the outcome of his decision. And so I turned off my location. He didn't know, and I brought our son on a plane, dropped him off to my mom, got on the next flight to Texas. I told him immediately once we landed where we were. But I thought at that moment I was choosing my career, and I thought our family was going to be over. I did the one overnight, flew back to Arizona, and my whole family is together at my grandfather's, and I'm just watching my family parent each other's kids and just like the village that was here. And I called him and I said, me and your son are moving to Arizona. And he said, are you now? I said, yeah, and if you want your family, you are too. And that day he was actually about to, the next day, accept a new job. And he decided not to, and he decided we moved to Arizona a month later. And so that was, we've been here 4 years. How many years is this? 2021? I'm like, I can't do math. 2021, May 2021, we moved here. And at that time, even when we first moved here, I remember that first 4th of July, he was so drunk. He punched a hole at my grandfather's house.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. at that point, we've already done interventions. There's been countless times, again, like I should have walked away.
Did he ever talk about what was his childhood like? What was he numbing? I'm always curious.
He never met his dad. And for him, he was never taught mental health is something you truly work at. And also how to overcome it. And so for him, he started drinking and smoking at 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
And people surrounding him would say, better the walls than my face. And it wasn't that I didn't see those sides of it. And never that I said it was okay. I just would always be more thankful I got the apology at the end. And so for me, I was probably the first person ever to tell him about therapy. I've been in therapy, 20 years of my life now. My mom was a therapist before she passed. And so, I think for him, he was just truly, I don't think he ever knew how to receive love and unconditional love, which was really what I gave him. And so, so us being here and kind of, that first year was him still drinking. And it wasn't until February of 2022, February 6th, that night was the last night he ever drank. And that was actually really the first time and so we were together almost 10 years, married almost 8 at that time. And so at that point, it was really the first time I ever thought he was capable of suicide. He had told me there was times years before me, given his own family things that had him think it could have been a possibility, but it was that night I remember looking at my mom and I said, he's not coming home. Oh, wow. And I was terrified. Like it was truly that moment that I thought this could be it. And next day he came home, and it was actually one of my close friends who I called that night because my son's wasn't even a year. He was a year and a half. I knew I couldn't be driving around trying to go and find him with my son in the back seat. So I had called up one of my friends, and it was the first time as a man showing up and seeing him that he knew he couldn't hide. And it was then at that point that I opened up to my 2 best friends, their husband and wife, and said, this is really the truth of what's been going on in our marriage. Anybody else in our lives who had seen glimpses or known things had one told me to walk away. And it was the first couple who ever said, we are going to hold you accountable and we will love you, but you are going to be held accountable for your actions and what you do from here. And from February 7th, 2022, he was sober. And it was truly a decision for him to be sober for himself. And so he was sober about 2.5 years. And truly from that moment, we became different. We didn't get pregnant with our daughter until she was born 2023. I didn't think we were going to have her. I thought there was just no way I wouldn't bring a child into this world. I never thought children could fix anything. But he really changed, and he went to therapy. We went to therapy together.
That's good. He was open to therapy.
Yeah, he was. And so he started to just grow. And so he chose to end his life on June 13th of 2024. And kind of leading up to that, we were the healthiest we've ever been. Our communication, how we would talk through issues or problems or what, it's just genuinely we changed. It was at that point that I actually thought, like, we can do this. We're gonna, it's not the fairy tale. I never thought my life was gonna be a fairy tale, but I thought the reasons why I stayed were actually gonna happen. And getting into kind of those months and where I saw him at that time was just very disconnected. It didn't quite make sense. My mom had passed in November, 8 months before he did. And that was a big catalyst for him. He really struggled because my mom was probably the only one who ever really saw everything for us and what we were. And she loved him despite everything. And when she passed, he didn't know how to support me, but he also didn't know how to support himself. He had said, your mom loved me in a shorter amount of time than most people have in my life. And it was just hard. And so disconnected from that. January, he had torn his Achilles. And I watched him as a man just really struggle, not being the father he wanted to be, not being able to play with our son, hold our daughter, and just get through life. He hated that I had to do things for him. But come that couple months before, May, we went on a trip to Mexico with my family in honor of my mom. And but I just couldn't see him fully just appreciating life for what it was. And he was telling me really it was because of work. He wasn't happy with work. So I'm like, quit work. I love my job. And I recognize that's what brings me so much joy is because I love what I get to do for my couples. And I was like, quit. I'd rather you be happy. Let's figure out something else for you. Why don't you and the kids travel with me this summer and we'll figure it out together. That's what he had told me was we'll figure it out together. And I believed we always would. And so come that day, we were that week packing to move into a big, beautiful home. Like I said, our son, he was 4 at the time. My daughter wasn't even yet a year and a half. I had a big meeting that morning, Zoom, so I had asked him, can you please, take the kids to school? And then can we pack a quick box before we both were going to physical therapy at the time? And I remember exactly that. He took the kids to school, and he comes back. And one of the things I had asked in one of our check-ins that we were doing, I said, something that would be really small that would mean a lot to me is if you made me coffee. I want our son to see it's a small thing, and what I would really love, could I ask you to start making me a cup of coffee? Wasn't always very keen on doing it sometimes, but that morning he came into the office. We shared an office because when my mom had passed a few months before, that's when we took in my niece. She was 15 at the time. She was living with my mom. So we were sharing in our office, and I just thought how I was so appreciative. I was just like, thank you so much. We go downstairs and we start packing boxes. Again, we're supposed to have movers in 2 days. And again, I'm just seeing him kind of that week, just not excited about the move. I'm like, what do you mean? This is beautiful. Look at how happy our kids are. What's going on? And actually that week, 2 days before, I remember sitting there with him and being like, I kind of want to do a check-in with you. I'm seeing you not being excited. I'm not seeing the motivation. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to support you? And he said, I promise this is just work. I said, okay, why don't you, reach out to my uncles, go to the casino, go to the gun range. Why don't you, whatever it is, I know you haven't been, at that point, he probably stopped going to therapy for a couple of months. Again, since my mom, it was just a hard thing.
Yeah, did he ever talk about his grief with your mom, or?
Really more so just he had struggled a lot with his relationship with his mom, and so just trying to process it. It was the closest thing to losing a parent that he had had at that point. Yeah. And so, but he just reassured me again, it's just work. I promise. I don't like moving. It's change. It's this. I'm like, okay, whatever it is, I need you to figure out what's something that could bring you joy. So if that's going for a drive, whatever it is, let's do something, because I'm seeing you actively not being great. And I actually told him that day, I said, I'm worried you would drink again. I thought that was my biggest worry at that time. And so, yeah, like I said, coffee, packing boxes. And I remember distinctly kind of where I'm sitting. He's on the other side of the couch as you. And I said, what's crazy? I wonder if we'd be talking about having another kid right now if we didn't have my niece. He goes, maybe, I don't know. Okay. So go upstairs. I'm going to go jump to a shower. He's hopping on a work call. I'm going to go physical therapy. He's supposed to be getting there when I'm supposed to be leaving. That's our game plan. And so I go to physical therapy, And funny enough, that day, the physical therapist we were going to was about to propose to his girlfriend that weekend. And given what I do, he was asking me, you know, all the things. And he's like, well, how'd Michael propose? So I tell him. And oddly enough, I get a text from Michael mid-conversation talking about how he proposed to me. And he just writes, I love you. And not even seconds later, I respond, I love you more. I didn't know that was when he was choosing to end his life. And so exactly that. And I finished physical therapy. He's supposed to be there. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I look at his location because that's what you can do now. And he's at the Target near our house. I'm like, that's odd. I'm going to go drive there. Maybe he's dumping extra boxes at the dumpster or whatever it is. And so it's just weird. I had this just gut feeling something's wrong. So when I pull up and I see a ton of cop cars, I just thought, we had joked about it when we were dumping a couple boxes a couple days before. He's like, you could get arrested for this. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. So when I see these cop cars, I was like, oh my God, this is real. You could actually get arrested. It didn't register in my head that something's actually wrong. But I knew in my gut when he wasn't where he was supposed to be, something was wrong. That wasn't like him. So exactly that. I pull up and I walk up to these line of cops and I said, excuse me, can I ask what's going on? That's my husband's car. And they said, how do you know he's here? And I said, well, he's not where he's supposed to be. We're supposed to be at physical therapy together. And they said, ma'am, I'm going to need you to sit down. And they said, we're right now waiting for the drone to come in. They can't identify what's happening, but they got a call from the business inside and that there's a man asleep in his car. And we think your husband has committed suicide. Oh, wow. And I'm like, what do you mean? So same friend who I had called that night, same Kyrie, to go to when he was driving drunk and whatnot. I called him immediately and I said, I don't know what's going wrong, but I need you to get here right now. And he did. And unfortunately, when they opened up his car, I saw everything. They didn't block anything. And so at that moment, first he didn't have a pulse. He did have a pulse. They raced him to go to the hospital. My friend's driving, racing to go to the hospital. And I'm just like, what's happening? I don't have any answers. My niece was home that day, middle of the day. Again, my kids went to school. He dropped them off. So I call her and I said, Kamaya, I don't know what's going on. Did Uncle Mikey say anything to you before he left the house? No, I didn't even know he left. What's wrong? I'm checking the Ring camera to see when did he leave the house, what time, all the things. And truly, it was a quick decision. And it's interesting, I think back to that day often. But when I had got to the hospital, they had pronounced him dead once he arrived. And my aunt, who owns the therapy practice that my mom had worked for, because I just kept saying, I don't understand. She goes, today a grown man made a decision. And I've had to sit with, first, it took a long time to get to where I'm at now with my grief journey, because as I'm sure for you, it's just why? Just why? I just kept asking, like, why now? Why not the 100 other times when things were level 10? Why not in, screaming, yelling fights or whatever it may have been? Like, why now? Why when we're finally going to make it? Why when we're here, we have these beautiful kids? I don't understand. Like, I adore you. I have proven my loyalty. Like, I don't understand this. In those first few months, it just kept being the why now. And then it started to hit me a couple months later. This was his sooner. And then it was, when I say his sooner, this was always going to be the end of his story. And then it became now I truly understand. He thought he was doing this for us. He was always going to be broken. There was never going to be the amount of unconditional love that me and the kids could give him. It was never going to make him feel whole. And so it's weird now on this side to be like, I'm thankful that it's now versus when my son is graduating college or right before my daughter getting married one day. And while I wish there was always one more day that would help or would have changed where he could have gone to therapy, done something more proactive to take care of his mental health. If this was the end of his story, I am thankful my kids never got to see him drinking. My son doesn't remember that time of his life. He was so little. Right now, the memories for my kids are of a loving, devoted, he was an incredible father to them. Truly. That's what I also want them to know and believe, because it's what I believe. It's what's the truth. Who we were before he got sober could not have happened if we didn't have had our kids. And so it's hard now. As I'm sure for you, you go through days where it's great and you're empowered and this is the life I'm going to live, how wonderful it is to do this for my kids. And there's moments of like, but this isn't the way it was supposed to go.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, the dream that you hold on to, right? With your husband as he was now sober and going to therapy. There was so much hope, this new beginning, and you're truly shocked and blindsided. You know, you were doing the check-ins. I mean, you're doing everything right. And I think that's so important for people to hear that. Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but so you have your personal own question after a survivor. Yeah. As to the whys and what else you could have done. But you're also, did you have to answer everybody else's question? Like what else we could have done? Or I felt like I was bombarded. Like, I wish I would have known, like, the depth of this. Did you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it's just like, well, of course, if I would have known that was the I would have called the cop, like caught him, brought him straight to me in a 72-hour, like myself. I would have never have hesitated if I genuinely had thought that was even a question in me. Like it just, so no, the questions, I mean, they still come. I think for me, those first few months, I was so scared to answer, to talk, to let anybody be around me and my kids, because I was so scared of what they might overhear, just all the emotions. But it wasn't truly, and it was kind of the start of this year that I was like, you know what, this is our truth. This wasn't our decision. There was no shame in our role in this. All I can do for my kids now is to move forward and show them life can still be beautiful despite this loss. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you can't still have love for your dad. It's not that I still don't have love and empathy for him. And I think that's probably where I've got the most negative feedback lately, is just how can you, I had one person say, how can you celebrate him? I'm not celebrating him. I'm not celebrating his decision. I am acknowledging there was a deeply hurt man. I am appreciating the change he was able to make for himself and for our family. Again, we would have, the steps and things of moving to Arizona, being here, we would not be where we are. I think about if we were still living in California by ourselves, we had no family or friends within 2 hours of us, how much more isolated I would have felt there, losing him there, than here. One, he would have never stopped drinking there. But it's a choice daily to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day. And I love that you got to be now and show that even through grief, to not feel guilty, that you can make room for joy and happiness, and you can be happy even though there's an extreme loss. And also, I know, there's so many people like, well, because I celebrate Scott all the time too, even though there are, you talk about mental abuse. There was some of that as well. Yeah. But I am celebrating his true heart, in his core, his soul that I remember. But there was so unresolved pain from early childhood that he couldn't see himself or remove that veil to see himself. And also you talked about receiving love. He was such a giver, but he couldn't receive it. I guess that wasn't safe for him. Yeah. And I feel that's probably a parent thing from early on. But he never went into doing inner child work, all the things that we, probably have done as well. And you made a good point as well. We have similarities that in the beginning, I was so young when I met Scott. I was 23. How old were you?
I was barely just turned 21 when I had met him.
Yeah. And so you talked about, you just wanted to be loved, and that was so me, but he wasn't emotionally available even then to give me the love that I so crave. So I thought, well, if I just love so hard, I'll get it back.
I'll get it back. Yeah, it'll all work. And it's like, and for me, I mean, now again, reflecting, looking back, my upbringing, my mom sang every Sunday in the church. And so for me, I was just, unless you do one of these 10 things, you stay, you work through it. Yes. And so for me, at 21, well, he wasn't doing one of those 10 things, but it didn't make it okay. And so I think, yeah, it's a journey. It definitely is, but it doesn't, that's why it's hard. I feel like I'm grieving two people at times. The man who hurt me so deeply before for many years, but also the man who I really actually believed we were going to have a future.
Yes.
And so there's two.
That's two. Yeah. I still remember, with my psychologist that I worked with her for almost, Dr. Amber Rochelle. I worked with her for 8 months or so. And yeah, I had to process almost, okay, split it up, like the abuse. You work through that. The anger. She had me even write this angry letter to Scott. Yeah. Because also as he left us this way, I had to take now, gosh, he leave me with so much repair. Yeah. There was a lawsuit. There was taking the office. There was, the children's pain that I'll never be able to remove, No. And so there was just anger there, but also so much love and grief. And so I can definitely understand that. And I know for me to even have space for grieving was really hard in the beginning. Yeah. So for you, how have you made time for your own grief?
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard. Beginning months, there was just none, like truly none. My son, those first few months, he would just like sit there until 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just watching him sitting on the edge of the bed, just like physically unwell. And not knowing at 4, how do you describe your emotions? Well, technically he was 3. He turned 4 a month later. He doesn't even have words to describe, let alone process. He doesn't get it. My kids in the beginning were just so scared you're not going to come back.
Yes.
You're not going to
anxiety.
Yes.
My son had that so bad.
But what I do for work, I exclusively travel. Yeah. So how do I get my 4-year-old to understand? So now, even if you ask my now daughter, she's almost 2.5 years old, even her, what do we always say about mommy? Mommy comes back. Oh. And I want them to know I want to come back. I will always come back for them. But also at the same time, I don't lie to my kids, and I want them to understand there is only so much in this world you can control.
Yes.
And you can, even today on our way to school to drive, I said, all right, I can only control myself, and we do positive affirmations on our way to school. Yeah, and it's because I want them to understand, yes, my intention is to always come back to you, but I don't know what this world's going to bring. I don't know if I'm going to get into a car accident or what may happen, so I don't want to lie to them. Yeah. But I also, it's hard. It's holding space for them, but how do I hold space for my own grief? Those first few months didn't happen, and I recognized I went into survival mode. I still have to travel. I have to do all those things. I wasn't feeling really my feelings. And again, kind of going back to the beginning of this year was, okay, this is the choice of I need to live. So I sat there and I said, what are things that make me happy? How can I build in that time? And so it has become a thing for me to be really intentional when I travel. I will come in a night earlier, or meaning like to wherever I'm traveling to, a night earlier, or stay an extra night and take myself to dinner alone. Oh, I love that. I've gone to a handful of concerts by myself, and in the beginning it was very uncomfortable, but now it is some of my like favorite things I get to do of, okay, what do I want to eat tonight? I don't have to check in with anybody. I don't have to care for anybody. And
like what brings you joy?
Yeah, what truly genuinely brings me joy. Yeah. And so I'm still not great at it because when I am here, again, I'm in mom mode. Yeah. Everything I do is for somebody else, whether if it's my clients or my kids. But I try to just be intentional. So lately it's, okay, what are things I want to be doing that make me happy? Wednesday, women shoot free. I go try and take myself to the gun range, or I've been trying to take some country line dancing.
Oh my
classes.
gosh, we need to go. Really? I just went for the first time last Saturday. I saw your post about going to Morgan Wallen at Baby on Your Own, and I'm like, oh, I really want to go, but I don't know if I can make it on Friday. Yeah. And I didn't. My mom's been away. I don't have a sitter.
Okay, we'll have to go.
And then I went. I was like, well, I'll just go find a place to go line dancing, and I went to Denim and Diamond or something. Yep. At first, from the outside, I'm like, oh, where am I going? Yep. But I go in there. It's a beautiful dance hall, so we'll have to go because I feel dancing is such a trauma relief as well, and it brings me so much joy to dance too.
Yeah, and I've only gone twice. Okay, so that's a new one. I'm like trying, but again, it's okay. What is something that's pushing me outside of my comfort zone to help me grow? But it also just makes me happy.
Yeah. And finding that space, like that
That
alone
space.
time is huge. And I love that you're allowing that, even though your kids, you know, you're getting that mom guilt, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100 every time.
But you know how important you're going to show up going back home if you've had those couple days to yourself. Because when I moved here, after my husband passed too, I was like, okay, I kept on saying, I need space. I just needed space. And I remember my first women grief retreat that I went to Sedona. I felt so guilty. My son was almost having a panic attack that I was going to leave, didn't know if I'd come back. And my daughter, not as much as Sarah, but she didn't like it when I go away. But I just knew I needed to go those 4 days. And I came back so different. And there was so much healing there. And I'm still friends with some of the women that have gone there as well. And I knew I needed to keep integrating those alone time and not feel the guilt as a mom, because I really needed to find that space to be by myself, to hear my thoughts, process my own grief. Because like you said, in the beginning, for a good 8-9 months for me, it was go every day.
You just have to.
Yeah.
And then it's all of a sudden, it's like, now, I mean, I think the mom guilt's just so hard. It is. Because there's times where you never know when your kids are going to bring things up. So it may be a great morning for me. And I'm like, all right, I can get through the day. I can do this. And all of a sudden we're driving to school. And right now my daughter's finally at that point where she's trying to piece together, where's daddy? And it's hard. And I don't know when she's going to bring it up. And then my son's reacting to her and he's like, he's in heaven, you know, and whatnot. And it brings me into a space, and it's like, I'll wipe my tears as I'm crying, driving them to school. But I also want them to see, and they'll ask me, why are you crying? I'm honest with them. I just miss your dad. I wish he could be here to see you in this moment. And I already travel so much for work, so it's so hard when I am here. I don't want to be away for a night. But then I'm like craving that night because I still need to process it for myself too. But
And how's your son? Like you said, well, your kids, what are some of the things that you see these wave of grief? Like behavioral wise, or how do you see it affecting them?
So it's interesting. I know your kids know it's suicide of how Scott had passed.
Yeah, but they were 6 and 8, you know.
And you guys were all on the trip together when it happened. And so for me, it's actually something that my son, well, both of my children, my niece, was old enough. I told her everything. My son knew that day, picked him up from school, and I told him immediately that his dad had died. But my son was already in therapy when my mom had passed. So good. I'm like a huge love mental health.
That's good.
And so just kept him right on going when his dad had died. But he right now does not know that it was suicide. And what I've been doing with him is really laying the framework to have that conversation. If you ask my son, what is therapy? He says, it's where you go and you talk about your feelings.
Oh, so cute. So cute. That's so good. We're raising kids that are going to be emotionally intelligent and be okay with therapy, and almost that self-awareness, like, oh, these emotions are coming.
These are coming.
Yes.
You know, what are tools that we can do to help us feel better? Okay, let's take our big breaths together and whatnot. And so I remember in the early beginnings of all this, I was like, I don't want to have this talk with him when he's 15 years old. And I remember sitting with this counselor, and she's like, it's not going to be when he's 15. One, he's just too damn smart. It's going to be much sooner. I really think it'll probably be within the next year. And for me, I really wanted him to understand you can't die and come back. As they say, so many kids will hurt themselves thinking that they are able to come back. And so it's hard. I was talking with a friend of mine, and she's like, don't you ever wish sometimes that like your kids were there or saw or knew, so then you didn't have to keep this piece? And I said, well, it's not necessarily. I think neither side is better that your kids know and mine don't, because it's still going to shatter their world and change it. It's not that my kids won't know. They will absolutely know the truth. And again, I only tell my son the truth. So if he asks me a direct enough answer, he does get the age appropriate. They were so much
younger too. So I think you did the right thing. And like you said, you'll see with mine, there were so many questions. And what happened is they were there. So they started, what I saw is they started creating stories in their mind of what happened in that room.
Yeah.
Because I didn't allow them in that room.
Yeah.
And in the condo, I didn't allow, they just stood there in the hallway while I went in. And so they had so many questions, and then they were picturing all these things. So I realized, well, they're almost picturing something even worse that Dad did, or somebody attacked him, you know? So it was hard though. Trust me, it was hard. I'd message, I'd call their counselors. They had play therapists. I'd call, and I was like, these are the questions I'm getting. I really don't know.
How do I process this with them?
Yes, that was really hard. And with my daughter being an old soul, she started becoming more and more questions, more deeper, more specific.
Yeah.
Whereas my son, I didn't go there with some specific things that she really needed to know. And for her, it was a trust thing.
Yeah.
Am I able going to trust what you're sharing with me? And without that trust, there was anger towards me.
Yeah. I can understand.
So you almost use your mom intuition always, with your kids. So there's never, like you said, a black and white, a wrong
and there's no
good
rule book for this.
No.
I wish there was a guide to say, okay, this is how old your kids are. This is what you should do. Or did they see, did they not see? And even that, coming up with stories and things, maybe a couple months ago, my son was like, my friend and I at school were talking about how Daddy died. And I think a lot of just, even without suicide loss, parents often will just like tell their kids something to don't talk about this or what. And it's like, well, actually, if I ask him questions back, all right. He's like, well, we were coming up with how Daddy died. I said, okay, what did you guys come up with? Because you don't know. And his 4-year-old answer, well, he thinks it was a werewolf. I think it was a vampire. Oh, and I was like, bud, those are both some really great guesses, but you know what? I don't think it's really appropriate for you and your friend at school to be talking about how you think your daddy died.
My daughter did that with a friend. Yeah. Actually, she did that. Yeah. Yeah. And the mom had called me. She's like, hey, just to let you know.
Just to let you know.
Sophia's been asking her friend, how do you think? And they did that too, actually.
Yeah. But I want him to know it's not the part of talking about your dad that's wrong. He is absolutely, he is the first one. I took him to a Chargers game. Michael was a huge Chargers fan. And we got on the big giant TV and we went to the restroom. This woman in the restroom's like, you're the kid on the TV. He goes, yeah, my daddy died. That's why we're here. Oh. Yeah, that's someone's natural reaction. Yeah, that was hers too. Yes. And somebody else might say, but we don't say that. And I said, you are absolutely right, sir. Have a great day, ma'am. And I kept going because that's still his truth. And I want him to understand that first. There's no shame on our side of this. But it's also, there's an age-appropriate thing for him to know and to understand. So he will know that answer. He knows so many things. He's asked me, like, he's, again, old soul. So I bet you my son and your daughter, they're very similar. But he's getting very smart with his questions of, okay, were you with Daddy when he died? Or where was he? And just all those, and I'll answer those. Because again, those are fine for him to know. And I want him, even with the mental health side of things, when we talk about our families or whatnot, there's certain family members of mine who I don't speak to. And there were certain family members of my husband's that we didn't speak to anymore. And so, but if you ask, because all of that's going to play into mental health and all of that's going to help him understand what led for him to get to that decision. And so if you asked him why I don't speak to my own dad, he would say because he didn't treat me with love and respect. And so I want him to understand those things. So when he does know why his dad died was because he took his own life, is he can understand the steps and things that took to get him there too.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, you're doing such a great job. It's so beautiful to watch because that's similar things I've been trying to teach the kids, and ultimately also saying that it was, they did nothing wrong because a lot it came into play was like, what else we could have done? Well, what if I went in there, Mom? Yeah. Or I didn't love Dad enough. So that guilt and shame that happens as suicide survivors, and especially for little kids, is so real and raw. Yeah. So I'm really trying to be mindful to say it was ultimately Dad's choice.
It was his choice.
His choice, his behavior, his environment. And it was his choice. Mm-hmm. The whys, we won't know all the whys, but ultimately, I do think you had mentioned as well that your husband thought they were doing us a favor.
Yeah.
right? Because they were
Truly.
feeling like a burden at this point. And I do believe that as well. And unfortunately, you know, I wish they would see it otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Where there was so much love, there's so much support around them, but they had
So
to start,
much.
it's almost like their self-love. They couldn't love themselves.
No.
They sat probably a lot of shame and guilt for where they were at mentally, right? And that's the hard part, to know that we can't make somebody,
You can't
put a mirror in their face saying, you are a smart man, you are capable. Oh, you know, there's so much around you, there's so much hope, you know, and there's
so much love.
Yes, so
I
much
want
love.
you to be here, number one.
Yes,
you know, but
exactly.
yeah, no, it's so hard because you wish you could have gone back and just told them one more time.
Yeah.
But I truly think that's the thing with suicide, is so many, even myself, I used to think suicide was such a selfish act.
Yeah, you get that a lot, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure sometimes comments now that
all
are
the things.
social.
And it's like, actually, to some, it was really the first time being on this side now that I could say, actually, to some, this is a way of sacrifice.
Yes, sacrifice.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
For their family.
For the family.
So there's so much
for
love
our
for the
future.
family. Yes.
Yeah. You know, and that's where the empathy comes in. You know, it's like, I don't agree with his decision. I can still have empathy and understand how low he must have felt and truly thought we would have been better off. So that's where it's like, all right, if you truly thought we'd be better off without you, then that's what my kids deserve, is for them to see us become better, for you even not to be able to be here and see it.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so beautiful. Now, I'm just curious, because this has happened a lot to us. Has he ever come? What was your husband's name?
Michael.
Michael. Do you guys get ever little signs that he's there, he's around?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Even as I was driving here, so as I was getting ready earlier, I was like, I just want a sign. I just want a sign. As I'm driving, his number was 23. Loved Michael Jordan. I wasn't his true wife until I got a Michael Jordan tattoo. And we got married on the 23rd, the only one out of the year, because like truly 23 is our number. And as I'm driving, there's this truck with two mix match stickers of a 2 and a 3 right next to each other as I'm driving here. And I took a picture, you know, and so there's small things, you know, but we've had lights flickered, songs playing. So my son and I, last month in June, I took him on a work trip with me to Sonoma, where we actually used to live. There's a property I work at quite a bit out there.
So beautiful.
It is. We'll go wine tasting sometime. But he got to go with me, and he actually does a lot better when he gets to go on some trips, because he understands I really am working, you know. But he knew he was born there, and so he's like, I want to do all the things you and Daddy used to do when you were here. I'm like, okay. And so took him to a restaurant we went to. What does he tell the server when the man's like, what can I get you to drink? And I make my almost 5-year-old order his own drinks. He's like, he goes, my daddy died. He used to come here to eat with my mom. Again, he's right. And I look at this server's face, and he's just like, I was like, you are right. He would like a water, please. Thank you so much. But I took my son that week to, it's called Country Summer. And it was actually a country festival my husband and I used to go to when we lived out there. And the last time we went, Tim McGraw was the headliner. And I was so excited. And he got so drunk that we needed to leave before Tim McGraw took the stage. And I refused to ever go back to the festival ever since. So to be able to go back with my son and to create such positive memories was really just beautiful for us.
Instead of avoiding it.
Yeah, instead of avoiding it. And it became our thing of, let's go together. And I told him, I said, you know, the last time I came here with your dad, you know, and we had these talks. And so when we're at the concert, he asked, is there ever signs? A song Michael used to play was Bob Marley's 3 Little Birds.
Oh, I love that song. I play that all the time.
All the time. That's our song. We even played it. My son and I danced to it at, I didn't do a celebration of life. I called it a, what did I call it? A remembrance gathering.
Oh, I like that.
Because I didn't feel right calling it a celebration of life. It just, it didn't. Yeah, remembrance.
That's beautiful.
Yep. Thank you. And so when my son and I were at the country festival, again, it's a country festival. Why this artist decided to do his own rendition of that song made no sense, but it started playing, and I'd see my son, and he turns around to me. He's like, Mommy, that's our song. Yeah. And we just held each other and cried. Oh. And it's just, so there's these moments where he does show up. And I'm thankful for them. And I can't wait for my son to really like start to recognize. I'm like, listen, that's daddy saying he sees you and whatnot. But so yeah,
I think those are those little signs. Those are signs. Like I always say, songs or through like for me, the flickering of the lights or changing like TV channels. One time he did that many times. We literally were like, put the remote away. What's going on? Yeah. We put it away and it keeps happening. We're like, okay.
Yep. You're like, all right, this is what it is.
I remember being in a therapy session and I was talking about Scott, and to validate what I was saying, he goes psh, psh, with the lights, and I was like, "Whoa!"
What a gift,
and I think for anyone grieving, especially for children, to know that dad or mom is still present, that they can talk to them, they can connect with them. Actually, my son, just a couple of weeks ago, he wakes up, I'm making him breakfast, and he's like, "Mom, you couldn't believe it. I dreamt about dad yesterday. I woke up at 3:33 in the morning and dad and I were watching Star Wars together. And that was their thing. They used to watch Star Wars. Scott would buy them like Star Wars Legos, way too big for his own age, but he just loves Star Wars. So that's just something he loves to do now. And I said, Mateus, that's you. You actually did connect with dad. Like it wasn't just a dream. You actually did. And you'll probably do that more. And this is a way you'll be able to connect with dad. And I know that week, my son has been feeling lonely. I mean, July in Arizona, everyone's gone.
Everyone's gone. No one can go outside where none of us are getting our vitamin D right now.
And all his friends have been gone all summer. He felt really lonely, and he was missing his friends from Alaska. Like gave him, usually I take away the tablets, but so they've been kind of messenger and calling each other, and he was really feeling alone. So I did ask him, I said, Mateus, were you feeling really lonely that night? He said, yeah. I said, well, dad came in to say you're never truly alone.
No.
Never truly alone. You always have, your loved ones around that have passed, and our faith is really big, and, he knows he can pray to God and ask for healing. And so that's why I love that you shared that you have these little signs too, because I get them often, and
even as you're describing that, Melissa, like I'm so encouraged by you to continue to speak so positive of our late husbands, because again, I think that's the narrative with suicide. We could absolutely hate them for their decision, and I also just feel like if I hated him, my kids would hate him. I don't want that ruminating in their hearts.
No, that resentment.
No. And it's like, I think it's the active choice every day to say, okay, this may have happened. Where's the positive? Where's the moments? Where are the things? How can I still build up my kids, your kids, to still be beautiful, functioning, healthy adults one day, and to be able to have these lights flicker, the songs come on? I don't want that always to be a negative thing for them. I want it to still be a positive.
A positive, like it almost for them. I always say, God must have had a big plan for you to lose your dad at 6 and 8 years old. We don't know the big picture of it.
Nope.
But you're definitely inspiring others now to see how you are thriving considering your loss. But I also, with my kids being older now, I am definitely, they know dad was addicted to, pain medication. There was alcohol. And they did see dad though. Yeah. Where he's 6'4". Yeah. Where we are somewhere and he just sits at the bar all day and all of a sudden he falls down. Yeah. And I'm having to ask a stranger to help me carry him back to the room. Yeah. They saw that, and that's when I was like, my kids are getting so much trauma, even me staying. Yeah. But always I stayed because I thought, well, there was always that little hope. And, I've said those vows. Yeah.
That's the commitment.
Yeah. And so committed to my family. And I always thought, well, there's always that hope, and because he didn't remove that veil where I knew the depth of his pain. Yeah. And he'd always say, okay, once the lawsuit is done, once is this, it was always, there's something. The work in this will be better. Yeah. So I always, okay, well, there's
I can
always
get through
hope.
these 3 months. I can get through this.
Yeah. And it goes through waves. My husband was very functional, even though he was depressed and an addict. And, and the alcohol came to play almost every day by the last year. I didn't even recognize who he was. So if my kids did see that, and I do want them to learn that your environment truly matters and what you do for yourself. So kind of, as they're going to go, Sophia's 11, become a teenager, make some decisions, kind of be self-aware. Those affected his brain health. Yeah. Right. Yep. And your environment matters. And it's all about balance. Yeah. They see me enjoy a glass of wine and this and that, but it's all about balance. Yeah. Right. And
they see me go to the gym. They see me do healthy things.
Yeah. Do all the work on myself. They know when when they see me in the morning, I'm doing my meditation and I'm like, and do my breath work.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's good to see me do the work, but also when I have hard days, I don't hide it either. I was always really good at hiding my emotions, but now they see me go throughout and how we can communicate with that. Right. And, so, let's talk about your career. I mean, you're an amazing event planner so you travel around the world, right?
I do. I'm very fortunate too, which when I first started my career, when I had met Michael, genuinely, this was not going to be my life. I didn't even dream this could be what I was doing. He was actually really the one to always encourage me to start my own business. And I'm so thankful for where it's at now. But I also think it was one of the things that made him feel so less than. Never that I never once brought up anything financial with it or the opportunities or what. Again, he really was my biggest cheerleader. But I think it was always the thing that made him feel like, where am I growing? Where am I excelling?
As you were rising, he was almost his self-worth even went down as you were rising. Yeah. But, and how can people find you?
Instagram. So my company, I named it after my 2 kiddos, Andre McKenna.
I love that.
And so, I love what I get to do for me. And it's actually one of the questions I got last year as I was talking to a potential couple. The mom had asked me, she goes, well, I have to be quite honest with you. I've seen your social media, my personal Instagram. Do you still believe in love despite losing your husband? And I said, it's like I actually had to sit there with myself last year and say, can I still do this? Can I watch people marry the loves of their lives knowing I lost mine? Yeah. How can I still be in this space? Yeah. And I said, absolutely. I still believe in this. I still want my kids to see what love is supposed to be. So I feel, I feel so fortunate to get to do what I get to do and to be welcomed into my couple's lives and love stories. It's an honor.
And it's beautiful to hear that you are open to be loved again. Yeah. To that possibility.
It's a process. It's a process, but I hope, what I at least tell myself is I hope my son gets to see what it's like for me to be loved. And I also hope my daughter gets to see what it's like as a woman to be loved. Yes. I want them to see that. So.
I think that would be another podcast. It's
like widows and dating. Oh, that could be a whole other one.
We need another hour for that.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that and book that. But follow her on social media. I will have it on the show notes, but look at her pictures. She is gifted and talented, and if I ever get married again or plan a big event, I'm hiring you.
Thank you. And just thank you for having me and just sharing your story and letting me share mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.